The winning streak may have ended after only 3 games, but it sure is nice to see the Orioles playing some competitive baseball once again. I'll recap the first 2 games in the series against the Cardinals coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Wednesday, May 28th, 2025, and welcome back into the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb. And coming up on today's episode, we're going to recap the first 2 games of this 3-game set between the Orioles and the Cardinals, with the O's winning Game 1 on Monday and dropping Game 2 on Tuesday, setting up the rubber match here on Wednesday. I'll get you the 5 things you need to know from each of those games, including finally a good Charlie Morton start on Monday and a revenge swing from Dylan Carlson. And then Ryan O'Hearn just continuing to hit, but the Orioles squandering some chances and the bullpen falling apart on Tuesday. Then we'll talk about all those roster moves that have happened over the past couple of days, the status of Adley Rutschman, the era of Cooper Hummel, Chadwick Tromp being in the lineup, and what is going on with Cedric Mullins. But that's all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast. Before we get there, though, just did want to thank you for making Locked On Orioles your first podcast listen of the day. We're free and available on all podcast listening platforms. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating and a review. It really, really helps out the show. And of course, we're here on YouTube as well. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Locked On Orioles YouTube channel. If you have O's questions, mailbag questions, just want to talk some ball, whatever it may be, you can always email me, lockedonorioles@gmail.com. Thank you for your patience, as we did not have a Tuesday episode. Monday was my 1-year wedding anniversary, so definitely was out celebrating and was not going to record an episode on Monday night like I usually would have. So today we will actually recap 2 games, both Monday's win and Tuesday's loss. So let's start with Monday. The Orioles coming off back-to-back wins. They hadn't done that much this year to end that series in Boston, coming home for a Memorial Day game against the St. Louis Cardinals. And the O's came away with a victory by a score of 5-2. And I'm going to get you the 5 things you need to know from that 5-2 win on Monday. And the first thing you need to know is Charlie Morton had his best start as an Oriole. As I mentioned back on Monday's show, the doubleheader that the Orioles had to play in Boston on Saturday really screwed up their rotation, meaning that by Tuesday, by last night's game, the Orioles would not have anyone in their current rotation who was on the regular 4 days rest required to start a game. And so really your one option was Charlie Morton was rested. He did not pitch out of the bullpen or start in that entire series against the Red Sox. And he was already on the roster, so he had to pitch either Monday or Tuesday, and they chose Monday because it was going to be Morton and Sugano, and they wanted to give Sugano that 1 extra day of rest. They moved him to Tuesday, and again, you had nobody who was ready because the doubleheader screwed things up in the rainouts. So yeah, Morton was going to start one of these 2 games no matter what. There was no way around it, so they chose Monday. And finally, Charlie Morton did some good things. He went out there and gave the Orioles his first quality start since donning the Baltimore uniform. 6 innings of 2-run ball for Morton on 4 hits, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks, and a homer allowed on 86 pitches. The veteran right-hander allowed just 5 hard-hit balls to the Cardinals offense. And this does not mean that Morton is back in the rotation. As I mentioned, because of the Orioles having that need, they just kind of treated this like a spot start. Now, Morton was scheduled initially to pitch Friday night in Boston as the starter, but once that got flipped around, the doubleheader happened. You call up Trevor Rogers. He looks awesome in Game 2 of that doubleheader on Saturday. He goes back down, but because he was the 27th man, he can come back whenever. I still think Trevor Rogers should get that next turn in the rotation this weekend against the White Sox. But after that, there's a chance the O's could go back to Morton. I would rather just stick with Rogers for now, have Morton kind of be a weapon out of the bullpen like he has been for the past couple of weeks when he had 3 really good long relief appearances out of the pen before he got this next start. So he had earned a trip back into the rotation, even if it was just for potentially a spot start on Monday. And again, it doesn't mean he's taking this spot back, but it gives the Orioles a little bit more reason to do so if they would like to. I mean, not only was it his first quality start, it was his first time recording an out in the 6th inning this season. Like, things had not gone well. And this was the first game on Monday that the Orioles had won in a game that Charlie Morton pitched. They were previously 0-12 in games Morton had pitched in. Whether he started or came out of the bullpen, they were 0-12. They finally get a win when Charlie Morton pitches, and it's because of how well he threw the ball. And you know he's feeling good when he's just spamming curveball like he was. 36 of his 86 pitches were the curveball. Next most used with the four-seam fastball with 19 of those. Lefties, righties, it didn't matter in that Cardinal lineup. Morton was going to the old Uncle Charlie of what's always been really his number one pitch. And while, it was slightly down overall, his stuff numbers in this start, the stuff has really ticked up since he was moved to the bullpen. He had those 3 good outings. The velo went up. And what I thought was really interesting is that this generally happens to starters when they get moved to the bullpen. They see a bit of a velocity tick because you're throwing in shorter outings. You can go more high effort for shorter spurts. You're going to have more velocity. But for Morton, he came back to the rotation and he maintained that velocity. It was up almost a mile per hour on all of his pitches, even as a starter. And the stuff has been really good too. If you're watching here on the Locked On Orioles YouTube channel, you're going to see this chart courtesy of Fangraphs. This is the stuff plus numbers. So just the pure stuff for Charlie Morton in all of his outings, both starts and relief outings this year. And you can see things kind of turn. When he had that solid relief outing in Anaheim on May 10th, that is when the stuff number started to turn the other way. 107, 113, 106, 103 in the last 4 outings. He only had one other outing previously where his stuff overall was over 100. You can see how much better the curveball was getting. The fastball's going up, the sinker's going up, even the cutter, the changeup has gotten much better. And that was the other thing. Lance Brosdowski wrote about it on Tuesday in his great pitching newsletter, that Charlie Morton, who was throwing a changeup from time to time throughout the season, switched his changeup grip. He went to that new kick change where it's almost like a knuckle ball or knuckle curve grip on the changeup, and it allows your changeup to have kind of less side to side and more downward movement. It's the pitch that Cade Povich has adopted this year and has really helped him in some of his starts. It's kind of the new trend pitch going around Major League Baseball is that kick change, and Morton changed his changeup grip to the kick change, and it has worked. The stuff numbers on that changeup are way, way up. He ended up throwing it a lot more on Monday, which is certainly good to see. He threw it 9 times, still not going to be a top pitch, but it gave him 4 more inches of vertical break. That helped him against some of the lefties in the Cardinals lineup. He has dropped his arm angle down a little bit since earlier in the year, and even since what he was, it looks more like the lower arm angle he had the last couple of years with the Braves when he was obviously much more effective in their rotation in 2023 and 24. So things are looking up. Like, he's making legitimate changes from all the issues he had early in the season. We know in the media he's been very outspoken and introspective about what's going on with him, and it looks better. And there were a few bad 0-2 misses that led to the runs he gave up. That led to the 2-run homer hit by Pedro Pages, which were the only 2 Cardinal runs against Morton. He missed badly with an 0-2 curveball and got punished for it. But otherwise, just so much better than before. And good for the Orioles for keeping him around. I mean, I, at one point a couple of weeks ago, called for the O's to just release him. It had gotten so bad that I was like, I don't see him helping this team. And I said, this was before the Orioles had fired Brandon Hyde. I was just like, look, I think they need to make some sort of personnel shakeup. And I think a release of Charlie Morton could send some sort of message that if you're not producing, it's going to be next man up. And the Orioles did make a move. They did move him to the bullpen from the rotation. So that was something. But they saw that, hey, there's still something in there. And he's been good in relief. And then he comes in and gives you this great start. And again, I'd still rather see Rodgers in that rotation spot, but I'm not going to be mad if we see some more Charlie Morton in the rotation or in long relief for now, because he is pitching just so much better than we saw for the first 6 weeks or so of this season. Second thing you need to know from this Orioles win on Monday is that Dylan Carlson got his revenge. Carlson, who the Orioles brought in on a really cheap 1-year deal this offseason, sent him to AAA because he has options. But it was a former top prospect. He was a first-round pick by the Cardinals back in 2016. He finished 3rd in NL Rookie of the Year voting in 2021. But after that, in St. Louis, injuries limited him. And even when he was out there, he was never even a league average bat again. Cardinals traded him to the Rays at the deadline last year. He wasn't really good in Tampa. The Rays actually non-tendered him to make him a free agent early this offseason. And the Orioles brought him in for depth, but the O's have injuries. Colton Cowser, Ramon Laureano, Tyler O'Neill, all on the injured list right now. So not only is Carlson on the roster, he's an everyday starter for this Orioles team right now, and he delivered. The big blow in this game, a 3-run homer out to right center field in the 4th inning off of Cardinal starter Eric Fetty that put the Orioles up 5-0, kind of broke the game open at the time, was a huge swing for Carlson. You could see the emotion he had when he got back to that Oriole dugout. He admitted it after the game, too. It meant a little bit more to hit that homer against his old team where he was with for so long and just had so many things go wrong late in that stint with St. Louis before they moved on from him. That meant a lot. It kind of reminded me a little bit, not this exact same thing, but reminded me a little bit of the home runs Ryan O'Hearn has hit against the Royals or the home run that Aaron Hicks hit at Yankee Stadium a couple of years ago. Like it was kind of a moment like that when Carlson hit that 3-run homer. And it was not good early on for Carlson when he was getting his chances with some Orioles on the injured list. He was 0 for his first 19 when he was kind of playing sparingly, pinch hitting or pinch running or in the lineup every once in a while with the Orioles early. And his first hit was an infield single in Milwaukee last week. He was not hitting the ball well, but that got him going. And in his last 3 games, that is including Monday, not including Tuesday, he just got hot and looked like a different hitter. 5 for 12 with 2 homers, a double, 5 RBIs, a stolen base, and only 1 strikeout in that stretch. He hit a solo homer on Sunday for his first Oriole homer and then backed it up with a 3-run shot on Monday. And he had only 1 hard hit ball all season before Saturday and had 3 of them since then. And listen, like his roster spot is going to be tested here if Ramon Laureano, Colton Cowser, and Jordan Westberg all return soon, which they could all be back by this weekend at the earliest. It might take a little bit longer for some of them, but Carlson's got options. He was not seen as a main part of this team coming in, so it's going to be tested, but we're kind of at the point where there's a chance he can stick on this roster, and some of it because he's starting to produce. And he also, he made some fantastic defensive plays in the outfield. Just in the last 4 games alone, I believe he's played all 3 outfield positions and played them really well for the Orioles, made some great catches, especially in Boston. But the thing is, with Heston Kjerstad being terrible at the plate, looking awful defensively, and the fact that Kjerstad has options as well, there's a chance when everyone gets healthy, Carlson sticks as the reserve outfielder over Heston Kjerstad. He might fit the roster better. If he continues to hit, he's going to make that case, and he's heating up. Only the 3rd time in his career that he had homered in back-to-back games. The other 2 times he did it was during that breakout rookie season with St. Louis all the way back in 2021. He did it twice then, hadn't done it until putting on an Oriole uniform against the Cardinals. Really cool moment for Dylan Carlson. Speaking of hot hitters, though, the 3rd thing you need to know from Monday's win is that Ryan O'Hearn continues to be one of not just the hottest, but the best hitters in Major League Baseball this season. Entering Tuesday, O'Hearn was 4th in the majors and 2nd in the American League with a 181 WRC plus on the season. Only Aaron Judge, Freddie Freeman, and Shohei Ohtani by WRC plus have been better hitters than Ryan O'Hearn. Those are 3 Hall of Famers. And then it's Ryan O'Hearn. And he's hitting lefties, not getting a lot of chances, but hitting lefties at a higher average than righties. He's almost been as good overall as against right-handed pitching. In May, coming into Tuesday, he was hitting .395. That was the best average of any hitter in baseball in the month of May. And he now has a 7-game hitting streak because of what he did on Tuesday. But just the 6-game hitting streak that he continued on Monday that he was on has been incredible. 4 games in that streak with at least 3 hits. 15 for 25 in those 6 games. That's a .600 average with a homer, 2 doubles, 2 walks, and just 1 strikeout in that stretch. And he was doing it with only a 33% hard hit rate, which is just kind of a little below league average. Like, he's making good contact. He's making good swing decisions. He's not striking out. And he made a diving catch getting the start in right field on Monday. I know we still have, a month and a half here till the All-Star game, but Ryan O'Hearn right now is an All-Star. He has been one of the best players in baseball, one of the best hitters in baseball. He's looking better defensively in the outfield. What can't this guy do right now? He's one of the most feared hitters in the American League that people just don't know about. What a pickup again and again by the Orioles. He's just getting better somehow. And he got better again on Tuesday, which we'll talk about in the next segment. But the 4th thing you need to know from that Monday win is that it really was kind of a full offensive output from the Orioles. They only walked once, but they had 10 hits in this game, got 2 hits and RBI from Jackson Holliday. The only guys who didn't reach base were Heston Kjerstad and Maverick Handley in this game. And at least for Kjerstad, like his at-bat in the fourth turned into a big error that led to the Orioles rally. And Maverick Handley put down a perfect sac bunt early in the game that led to an Orioles run. So you could argue that both of them even contributed, even without reaching base in this game. And after they had won 5-1 on Sunday and then won 5-2 on Monday, 5 runs in back-to-back games for just the 4th time all season. 5 runs is usually kind of that magic number to win baseball games. And the Orioles just haven't been able to get there consistently this year. So really nice to see them do it in back-to-back games, but of course pitch the ball well too. And the 5th and final thing you need to know from the Orioles 5-2 win over the Cardinals on Monday afternoon is that the bullpen was dynamite. After Morton was done, after 6, 5-2 lead in the 7th, the Orioles turned to Seranthony Dominguez, who had thrown a lot lately. 45 pitches in the previous 3 days for Dominguez. He was awesome in that 5-out save he had on Saturday, but he comes into the 7th, a filthy 1-2-3 inning. Then Yennier Cano looked like he's kind of pulled himself together in the 8th. He had another good outing on Tuesday, which was nice to see. And it was an easy 1-2-3 ninth inning for Felix Bautista to get the save. Those 3 in the bullpen went 9 up, 9 down with 5 strikeouts to finish off the game. Easy peasy, no drama at all, holding that 3-run lead. And the Orioles, for the first time all season with the W on Monday, got 3 wins in a row. It is sad that it took until May 26th to get 3 wins in a row, but that is where the Orioles are this season. And they had a chance on Tuesday night to make it 4 wins in a row as the rain came down in Baltimore. Unfortunately, they faltered late, and their winning streak, as soon as it started, was over. I'll tell you what happened in Tuesday's loss coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is brought to you by Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Well, between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. And for me, I think, I mentioned my anniversary was this week, and managing money is a big part of marriage. And I think the easy collaboration through Monarch Money is the best part. Managing money with your partner, it's now smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. So the Orioles got the win on Monday, making it 3 wins in a row, their first winning streak of the season. They tried to make it 4 on Tuesday. They had the lead in the 7th, but could not hold on as they fell 7-4 to the Cardinals on Tuesday night, snapping their brief 3-game winning streak and finding themselves back in the loss column for the first time since Saturday. And I'm going to get you the 5 things you need to know from that Orioles loss on Tuesday night. The first thing you need to know is, what if Ryan O'Hearn just won AL MVP? Obviously, it's not going to happen because Aaron Judge exists, and that guy is ridiculous. But we should maybe start giving out a non-Judge MVP award because it feels like he's just going to win it every year for the rest of time. Could it be Ryan O'Hearn? I mean, he just keeps having the biggest swings for this Orioles team. He drew a walk on Tuesday. He only had 1 hit, but that 1 hit was the biggest of the game for the Orioles. Comes up with runners on 2nd and 3rd and 2 outs, with the Orioles trailing 3-1 in the bottom of the 5th. Andre Palante, the Cardinal starter, is still out there, and it was a first pitch ambush. Jumps all over a middle-in fastball, crushes it into the bleachers in right center field for a 3-run homer to flip the score, put the Orioles up 4-3. And the Orioles, one of the notable things about their offense this year, despite the struggle, is they have seen the most pitches per plate appearance of any team on average in Major League Baseball this year. And sometimes that can be good, but sometimes you can be too passive. Sometimes you just got to jump on the first one and ambush a guy. That is exactly what O'Hearn did. He just stays red freaking hot with that 3-run homer to put the Orioles up 4-3. And I mentioned with the Monday game, his last week has been one of the best weeks in baseball. I'm honestly a little bit surprised they pitched to him. Like, I'm not a big fan of the intentional walk. It generally doesn't work out well, but you've got the base open at first, and you've got, again, Dylan Carlson on deck, who, as I just mentioned, also swinging the bat well right now. Nothing close to what Ryan O'Hearn is doing. And I think I would, especially with a righty on the mound, much rather pitch to Dylan Carlson than Ryan O'Hearn in that spot. Little surprised they didn't at least try to pitch around him a little bit and just kind of served up a pitch one fastball. And O'Hearn certainly made them pay to give the Orioles the lead. But the second thing you need to know from this loss Tuesday is that otherwise the Orioles really squandered a lot of chances in this game. They went 1 for 13 with runners in scoring position with 6 strikeouts in those spots. It was not a good day. With the only hit with runners in scoring position was the go-ahead 3-run homer from Ryan O'Hearn. So it's nice to get the 3-run bomb. It can hide a lot of the struggles, but still, it was rough to watch. Like, they had the bases loaded with no outs in the 4th, and they only scored 1 run in that scenario. And the only reason they got 1 run because the Cardinals infield made 2 pretty bad defensive miscues on 2 plays that should have been double plays. One got no outs and one got 1 out. That allowed the Orioles to scratch across on a Heston Kjerstad RBI fielder's choice that should have been an inning-ending double play. In that inning, I mean, they had a lot of other chances. Ryan Mountcastle had a couple of leadoff doubles, and the Orioles just weren't able to get him home in the second inning when he did that. And the Orioles have been much better. We talked about it all year. The Orioles, for most of the year, have had the worst batting average in the majors with runners in scoring position. But in the last 6 games, starting with the extra innings win in Milwaukee last week that snapped the long losing streak, the Orioles were hitting .316 with runners in scoring position in their last 6 games. They had done much better in those spots. Didn't happen. Did not happen on Tuesday, and that's one of the reasons why you can lose baseball games when you leave that many runners on base. And the third thing you need to know from the loss is the inability to add on with all those chances. That puts more pressure on an already stressed bullpen to hold a small lead. And Gregory Soto came in with a runner at third and 1 out in a 1-run game, got 2 huge strikeouts in the 6th to keep the Orioles up 4-3. That was huge. And there were 2 more lefties in Victor Scott and Lars Nootbaar due up to open the 7th. And in a usual spot, Soto would stay on, face those 2 lefties, and then Yennier Cano, who was warming in the bullpen, would come in to face Mason Wynn as the stretch of righties began. But the issue is the Orioles don't really have trustworthy lefties in this bullpen right now. They DFA'd CNL Perez over the weekend because he's just been horrible. Keegan Aiken's been fine, but it has kind of been an up and down season, and we'll get to Aiken. So even with Gregory Soto having a couple of struggles lately, he's really the only fully trusted left-hander in the bullpen right now for Tony Mansolino. So it's like every big pocket of lefties, he has to go to him. And Soto, after coming in and pitching and getting out of the 6th inning on Tuesday, that made it 4 outings in 5 days for Soto. That is something the Orioles rarely do with their relievers, is have them pitch 4 times in 5 days. So it's even more stress on the arm to sit down in the middle of the inning and then come back out for the 7th. Not surprised that Soto didn't come back out there. The Orioles do not want to overwork really the one and only lefty they trust in the bullpen right now. And they had another fresh lefty in Aiken. So Tony Mansolino goes to Aiken with the 2 lefties due up in the 7th. The Orioles still clinging to a 4-3 lead. And Aiken was a disaster. Leadoff walk. He allows a single. Luckily, the Orioles throw out the runner at second, trying to stretch it in Lars Nootbaar, then an RBI single. And it's immediately 4-4. And although Aiken was recorded with 1 out, he didn't deserve any outs in that outing. Now, Cano came in, limited the damage, kept it 4-4. And you turn it to Brian Baker, who you could argue has been the Orioles' best reliever so far in 2025. His job is to keep it tied at 4 in the top of the 8th inning. And he just didn't have his good stuff. And sometimes that's going to happen when these guys are pitching so often and you're having to go to them, is they're not going to have their best outing. And Baker, clear as day, had his worst outing of the year. 3 earned runs was the most he's given up all year. Just the second time he's allowed multiple runs in an outing all season. Like, he had sub-2 ERA coming in. He's been fantastic, but he got hit hard. He didn't have his good stuff. Gave up a solo homer to Arenado to give the Cardinals the lead. But also, I mean, the Orioles outfield defense in that 8th inning completely let Baker down. Again, 2 triples were both hard hit balls. Cardinals probably deserved hits on both of them. And Baker is not, getting out of the weeds here. He did not make great pitches. He got hit hard. He certainly was not anything close to his best self in the 8th inning on Tuesday. But the outfield could have helped him. And that is where these injuries are really helping the Orioles. They're starting to get some, lesser guys to produce at the plate. We're talking about Dylan Carlson and others, and that has been awesome to see. But when you have this many guys out, when you have Colton Cowser, Tyler O'Neill, and Ramon Laureano all on the injury list, and Tyler O'Neill, he's not a great defensive outfielder. He's got a great arm, but Cowser and Laureano both play an outstanding outfield defense. And without those two guys, you're missing a lot. And now they've been sitting Cedric Mullins. Tony Mansolino's been a little cagey about what's going on with Mullins. We'll get to that in the next segment. But Mullins was once again on the bench there. And so you don't have Mullins. You start Jorge Mateo in center field again because your health is to play Carlson, Mateo, and Kjerstad in the outfield right now. I mean, it's kind of where you're at. Your other option is Ryan O'Hearn out there if you're not going to be starting Cedric Mullins, the way the outfield is at with him sitting. And I mean, the first triple, like, again, it's a ball that basically hit off the wall. It's a tough play. But the route that Heston Kjerstad took to that ball, and Jorge Mateo didn't take a great one either, but Kjerstad like runs back to the wall, and then he's like 10 feet away from where the ball is, and then he has to take an immediate left turn. Heston Kjerstad, like, we all knew he was going to be more of a power hitter, right? He wasn't going to be known for his defense. He was always going to be a corner outfielder. He might have to be a DH or switch to first base, but I would have thought that, like, when he gets closer to 30, he just has to move off the outfield. Heston Kjerstad can't play the outfield now. It is a disaster to watch him out there. A disaster. He doesn't know how to run. It's one of the most awkward strides I have ever seen, and he's got good speed, surprisingly. He just looks so clunky and terrible and lost out there. It's ridiculous. And when you add it to the fact that Jorge Mateo is just an inexperienced center fielder playing next to him, like, yeah, Dylan Carlson out in left plays a great defensive outfield, but that's only one of three. It puts you in a bad spot when you don't have Mullins there, and that turns into a triple. And the next triple, again, it was a ball halfway up the wall. It was hit well. That's a very hard ball to catch. But the effort that Mateo made jumping and missing the ball by about 10 feet and turning what should have just been a double into a triple because of doing that did not help. And at the end of the day, the Cardinals get 3 runs in that top of the 7th, and they take a lead that was big enough to hold on. And that's where we're at right now. Like, Heston Kjerstad is just kind of a disaster at the plate and in the field right now, but they need to get these guys back defensively because when you have non-good outfielders playing the outfield, that's what can happen when the margins are pretty razor thin in those key moments. Fourth thing you need to know from the Orioles' loss Tuesday night is that Tomoyuki Sugano was not his usual pinpoint self. He threw almost 30 pitches and allowed 4 hits in the first inning. Now, he somehow got out of a bases-loaded jam, tight-roped, only gave up 1 run in the top of the first, but you could tell from the start in this one, he was just not the usual Tomo. It was not the pinpoint command. And he kept allowing hits on sweepers over the middle of the plate. And his plan against those right-handed hitters for the Cardinals when he got to 2 strikes was to go to his sweeper. His splitter's his best pitch, but it is just the nature of the pitch. It's better against lefties than it is against righties. And he likes to go to that sweeper or that cutter from time to time against right-handed hitters to get the strikeout. He just didn't have command of it. And the issue was when you have bad command of a sweeper, sometimes it sweeps 8 feet outside. And that's not ideal, but you can just go on to the next pitch. When your bad command of the sweeper is making it hover right over the middle of the plate, that's going to allow other teams to do much more damage. And a lot of the hits that Tomo gave up, it was just sweepers over the middle. Multiple hits in the first inning, a couple of the hits in the second inning, just sweepers right over the middle of the plate. And if he can't command it, it's going to get him in trouble. You got to run it off the corner with 2 strikes. He left it in the middle of the plate. And it wasn't a sweeper in the second inning that Nootbaar hit the 2-run homer on, but it was a pitch elevated over the middle of the plate, and Nootbaar hit a 2-run shot to make it a 3-0 game. Now, luckily, Sugano settled down after that 2-run homer, did not allow another run, ended up getting through 5 1/3 innings, 3 runs, 8 hits, 3 Ks, the 1 homer, but did not walk anyone through 91 pitches. And hey, you know what? He wasn't very good, but he pitched into the 6th, gave up 3 runs. He still, even without being that good, kept the Orioles in the game, certainly gave them a chance to win this game. So you love to see the fight from him. But the first 2 innings of this start did kind of show you what the issue is with Tomoyuki Sugano, is that even with as good as he's been, he still pitches on thin ice. Because with this kind of stuff, it's not overpowering electric stuff. He needs to be on the corners. And if he's getting behind hitters, which he did in the first inning, had 2 3-ball counts in that inning, you rarely see that from Sugano, or if he's leaving pitches over the middle, like he did with those sweepers in the first inning, he can get himself into big trouble. Now, luckily, he's a good enough, smart enough pitcher that he kept it from really big trouble and kept it to 3 and settled down and pitched into the 6. And we absolutely love to see that. But you do see kind of the dichotomy of the good Sugano, the bad Sugano, really both in this start. But when you don't walk anyone, you can have better margins. And that was kind of the end of the day here, but you got to have a little more swing and miss. He's not going to be a swing and miss merchant, but 4 whiffs on 43 swings is just not going to cut it. That's too many balls in play, too many bad things that could happen. And I get that he was attacking the righties with sweepers, but the splitter is his best pitch, and he only threw 14 splitters out of the 91 pitches that he threw. I don't like that either. It's your best pitch. Like, maybe he just wasn't feeling it out of his hand, and that's fine, but attack guys with your best pitch. He didn't do that, and he did kind of pay the price for it, especially early in that game. And the fifth and final thing you need to know from the Orioles' 7-4 loss to the Cardinals on Tuesday night is that 2 Orioles made their O's debut. Chadwick Tromp, the third catcher on the roster right now, got the start behind the dish with Adley still out. He played good defense. He had a lot of great blocks, but he did go 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts at the plate. And then Yaramil Hiraldo, a 29-year-old right-handed reliever who was called up Saturday, but had still not gotten into a game. He came on in relief in the 8th inning to make his major league debut. The stuff was interesting. It's like a 94-mile-per-hour fastball with big-time ride. The slider had interesting shape, and he did allow an inherited runner to score, but he finished off the game for the O's, an inning and a third scoreless with a strikeout. So you love to see him having a good outing generally and limiting the damage in his major league debut. And we'll talk a little bit more about both Trump and Hiraldo in the final segment because the Orioles made a whole lot of roster moves over the past couple of days. We'll try to break down all of them and then get you out of here coming up after this. So it's been kind of roster move palooza for the Orioles over the past couple of days, trying to get my head around everything that has happened. I'm also recording here like just as the game ended, so I'm kind of scouring the internet to see if Tony Mansolino has given any kind of update on Cedric Mullins. So we will get to that if we get any kind of update on Mullins right now. But let's start with Cooper Hummel. Everybody was like, who is Cooper Hummel? Because the Orioles signed him to a 1-year big league deal on Sunday. They DFA'd Terrin Vavra to make room, who was kind of only here to initially replace Ramon Laureano, who went on the injured list on Saturday. Now, Vavra was DFA'd, but he did clear waivers, and he did accept his assignment back into AAA Norfolk. He could have chosen to become a free agent. He decided to stay with the O's, so he remains solid AAA depth for the Orioles. But Cooper Hummel is a 30-year-old switch hitter who came up as a catcher, but is not caught in professional baseball since 2023. He has since moved to the outfield, mostly plays left field, right field, and first base at this point. He was an 18th round pick of the Brewers back in 2016, got to the majors with the Diamondbacks in 2022, played 33 games, was not great as a hitter in his first stint, but then he went to the Mariners, played 10 games with them in 2023, was mostly in AAA. Then he was with the Astros last year, 6 games in the bigs, mostly in AAA. And an 82 career big league games, 235 plate appearances. It's a 52 WRC plus. It's a 159 average. It's a 32% strikeout rate. Like, he hasn't been great when he's gotten his big league chances, but he was in AAA with the Yankees this year, and then he opted out of his minor league deal and signed with the Orioles. He played in just 10 games. He hit pretty well. He had a career best 115.7 mile per hour batted ball with the Yankees in AAA this year, but he has had good stats in AAA. Last year with the Astros in AAA, over 400 plate appearances, had a 136 WRC plus, 18% walk rate to a 20% strikeout rate. In the last 3-4 years in AAA, his numbers against fastballs, both four-seamers and sinkers, he's just absolutely crushed fastballs, which is certainly something that you like to see as well. The Orioles definitely just like his versatility, and they like the ability to hit from both sides of the plate, and he's definitely shown some promise in AAA. And that was the plan, to keep him around and kind of have him basically filling in for Ramon Laureano until some of these other guys got off the injured list, come off the bench, maybe start a game, be here for a week and see what happens. But then on Sunday, Adley Rutschman takes a foul ball off the mask and leaves the game. Now, the Orioles said before Tuesday's game that Adley took some batting practice on the field, or at least was planning to, and for now is avoiding the concussion IL. They're not saying whether or not he has a concussion, but I'm assuming not, if he's not going on the IL at this point. But Adley did not play in either Monday or Tuesday's games. And so if you're not going to put him on the injured list, but he's not going to play, you need a third catcher on the roster. They were rolling with Adley Rutschman and Maverick Handley. You simply need a third catcher in case the guy you start has to come out of the game and you don't want to put Adley in there. So the Orioles did call up Chadwick Tromp. And because of that, they needed to make a roster spot. Cooper Hummel just got here, last guy in, first guy out is how these things kind of work. So Cooper Hummel was, after one day as an Oriole, designated for assignment to make room for Trump. Again, that wasn't the plan, but then Adley maybe has a concussion, and you certainly have to change the plans at the back of your roster. And Hummel's not really seen as a catcher anymore, so Tromp is called up. Hummel is DFA. Now, Chadwick Tromp, you may be saying, who is Chadwick Tromp? Again, that is Tromp. That's very important here. That is an O in the middle of that name. He signed a minor league deal with the Orioles back in April after he was DFA'd by the Braves. He's been kind of a third catcher and up and down between AAA and the big leagues catcher with the Giants and the Braves, basically every year in the big league since 2020. Now, he only has 162 big league plate appearances. It's a 62 WRC plus with 50 strikeouts and 3 walks. That is now 52 strikeouts and 3 walks after the 2 Ks he had in Tuesday's game in his Orioles debut. But he was swinging it okay in Norfolk. 71 plate appearances, had a 106 WRC plus. But he's a 30-year-old right-handed hitting catcher, known as a solid defensive catcher who had some bat as a prospect, hasn't really showed it as much, especially when he's gotten to the big leagues. Now, if Adley does avoid the injured list and can come back maybe today or potentially hopefully by Friday against the White Sox, then Tromp will just stay here until Adley is ready. And then once Adley is ready to go, you only need one backup catcher. Now, you would think, oh, okay, you just DFA Tromp. You know, he's not a huge deal. You keep Hanley as your backup. But because Tromp is out of options and Maverick Hanley has minor league options, and Hanley's been great defensively but hasn't really hit at all, you could potentially send Hanley down to AAA Norfolk and leave Tromp here for a little while. Gary Sanchez did take batting practice on Tuesday as he's trying to come back from that wrist injury. So at least he's on the course of coming back at some point in June to once again be Adley's backup. So maybe you could go with Tromp instead of Hanley for a little bit if you want a little bit more of the bat out of your backup catcher. It might just kind of depend on how Adley's feeling and when that happens. And you might ask, okay, why are they not calling up Samuel Basallo? He's a catcher. He's their number one prospect. Because of injuries, Basallo to his hamstring and his elbow early this season, he's only caught 5 games so far in AAA Norfolk. There were already still some questions about his catching defense. They're not going to call him up here to catch every day when he's caught 5 games in AAA. It's just not going to happen. Now, we had some other injury updates. Ramon Laureano, who is out with that left ankle sprain, he hit in the cage on Monday. He is eligible to return off the injured list on Saturday. He's also done some running, so hopefully he'll be back then. And we don't have to see Kjerstad and Mateo in the outfield. Jordan Westberg was set to begin his rehab assignment in AAA Norfolk on Tuesday. Unfortunately, the weather in Norfolk postponed that game. They will play a doubleheader here on Wednesday, so presumably that is when Westberg will begin his rehab assignment. He has not played in over a month, since April 26th with a hamstring injury. He's been on the IL since then and had a setback a couple of weeks ago that shut him down from running, but he is built back up to go on rehab. And Colton Cowser will also be joining Jordan Westberg in AAA Norfolk, hopefully playing in 1 or 2 of Wednesday's games. Cowser, who started his rehab assignment in Aberdeen last week, he's been out since late March, the 4th game of the year, when he dove into first base and fractured his thumb. He is eligible to come off the 60-day injured list this Friday. So hopefully this week, if the rehab assignments go well for both of those guys, I would target early next week as maybe a return for Westberg, Cowser, and potentially Laureano. And this Orioles roster could get a lot healthier. And they're going to need it, especially if something is going on with Cedric Mullins. At this moment, looks like latest update is nothing at the moment. So I'm not sure if the Orioles have another update, but Cedric Mullins has not played in 3 of the last 4 Orioles games. Now, that's a little weird. Now, he didn't play in one of the doubleheader games Saturday. That's pretty normal to sit one game and play one game. Then he did play Sunday, but then he was out of the lineup and was fully out on Monday and Tuesday against the Cardinals. Tony Mansolino said both times they were just looking to get Mullins some rest. He was obviously asked about it Tuesday because like Mullins never sits back-to-back days, especially as good as he's been. And Mansolino just said they want to get him off his feet, get him a couple of days of rest. It was planned. Everybody kind of freaking out about it. Again, it's tough when you watch Jorge Mateo in center field. My thought would be there's something going on. I mean, Mullins was in the dugout at least on Monday, but and he was on Tuesday as well. My thought is there's something going on that either Mullins or the Orioles just don't quite want to reveal right now. Again, he's someone who's dealt with Crohn's disease for a couple of years. Again, this is purely just possibility, nothing I know, but it could be something like that. It could be something else going on where he just doesn't feel ready to get on the field right now, but wants to be there to support his teammates, but doesn't want to kind of go public with what's going on. Or it really is that the Orioles just really wanted to give him back-to-back days off because he's been kind of shouldering the load for this Orioles team for a while. So hopefully we do see Mullins back in center field on Wednesday. If not, probably see a Kjerstad, Carlson, O'Hearn outfield, maybe. I don't know. The outfield defense is not great either way if you don't have Mullins. So really hoping Cedric Mullins is back out there on Wednesday when the Orioles are going for a series win. Yeah, it was tough to blow the lead late on Tuesday, but you can still win a series on Wednesday. Cade Povich, who's been pitching better, is going back to the hill. He's got a 4.86 ERA in 9 starts, but his last time out there, 5 innings of 1-run ball against the Red Sox. He'll be facing the right-hander Miles Michaelis. The veteran 36-year-old has a 3.51 ERA in 10 starts, 1-run ball over 6 innings his last time out against a really good Diamondbacks offense. That is a 6:35 start on Masson tonight as the Orioles go for a series win. And then I'll be back tomorrow to recap Game 3 between the Orioles and the Cardinals and get you all the updates you need on Adley Rutschman, Cedric Mullins, and hopefully the beginning of the rehab assignment for Jordan Westber. But that's on tomorrow's episode. Until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.